Hey everybody, welcome to your readings for the first week of the year. I said I would see you next year, and I didn't lie about that. It's next year. This is the week ending the 7th, so the first full week of 2023. Well, we got some good stuff happening, so that's good. Some things that we've been dealing with for a while are breaking up, so that's nice. We, of course, are starting off the year in a Mercury retrograde. That's never pleasant, but it happened last year, and we survived it. So I'm pretty sure we could survive it again this year. But let's go ahead and get to our readings. We're going to start with Darcy. Hi there, Darcy. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas and pleasant New Year celebration if you had a New Year celebration. The good news, let's just start with the good news before we just go ahead and throw in all the rest of it. The good news is this week that square between Uranus and Saturn is ending. I'm very happy to report that, actually, because it has been a pain in my rear as well. So I'm glad that's gone. And that actually ends, we are looking at the end of that happening by Thursday. So we're going to deal with it a little bit in the beginning of the week, and then it's over. The not so great news about that is following hot on Saturn's heels is Venus moving into Aquarius this week, which means that next week Uranus is going to be squared with Venus for about a week, a little bit over a week. Then Venus will move out of there, but then the sun is moving in. So the square thing is going to continue, but it's changing. It's not quite the same. So it's still annoying, but it's not quite as annoying, and it's not going to last anywhere near as long as the last one did, either one. So that's some good news to hold on to there. We're also kicking off the week with the moon in Taurus, which is a little bit annoying, in conjunction with Uranus. So very much taking part in that square with Saturn. Saturn's focus is on your support group. Uranus's focus and Taurus's focus is on self. And this kind of creates a little bit of a challenge. I feel for you specifically. I keep getting the phrase, if I want it done right, I should have just done it myself, kind of a thing. And I feel that a lot of times, because you've had that situation, you may not be very quick to ask for help, if that makes sense. And I feel like part of the lesson there is you can't necessarily control how people help you. You kind of have to let people help in the way that they do, and it's not necessarily something that you can control, if that makes sense. Like, I have a good example of that, actually, when I pardon me, had to take care of my stepmom, and she was going through the motions of what needed to be done. But when it came to the cat box, it was, you have to set it here so you can dump it here. It has to be done this way, and it was like, I don't have issues lifting a cat box to dump it in the garbage can. I don't have to do it that way. I can do it my own way. No, you have to set it on here, and this is it. She was adamant that this was the only way to change a cat box. And I'm an individualistic person. I want to change it my way. It's getting changed. What does it matter, right? It's little things like that. And sometimes you can let those things go, and sometimes you can't. And I feel like really what's playing out this week, especially at the beginning of the week, is if you need help, you need to accept help in whatever way they're going to give it, providing it's not going to screw up what you need help with. So obviously, if this is a work thing and it has to be done a certain way, well, then that's different, right? Then you need somebody that's obviously going to do it the right way and not all the wrong ways, if that makes sense. We are having a trine also, which is a good thing, between Uranus and the moon at the beginning of the week, when the moon is in there as well, with the sun, which is in Capricorn, as well as that retrograde Mercury. Now, Yes, we're starting off another year with a Mercury retrograde. Both of those planets are focused on career. And I feel this is again where the support is pointing to is in terms of your career. And Mercury being retrograde in your career is a little bit weird and tricky, but like I said, this is a trine. This is a very helpful aspect where Uranus is working with these planets for a common good. So I feel like what that really means for you is that it's really important not to talk about your plans. Make your plans, but not necessarily say anything about them. The reason, there's a couple of reasons. The first one is the easy one. You talk about your plans, all of a sudden somebody else is going for the same position when they weren't thinking about it before, just to spite you, just to compete with you, kind of a thing. But I also look at this as um a lot of times we get stuck talking about what we're going to do and we actually don't follow through. So this is really about, don't talk about it, just do it. Just, you don't have to ask advice from other people. You don't have to say, do you think I should go for this promotion? Don't talk about it, just do it. At least that's the feeling that I get from that. Also, with Taurus's focus on self and Uranus bringing that focus on self into it, there is an element of focus on the past there as well. With that being said, it's a good opportunity, or it's a good time to just make sure that you're starting off the year in the right place. Self-care is important. Making sure your needs are taken care of is important. Not to say that you're not very good at that. I think that's the opposite. Actually, you are really good at that. But just making sure that some of the negative habits that you had last year don't necessarily move into this year, because that's, of course, what self-improvement is all about as well. So it's not a big deal. We're not talking about like a whole bunch of stuff that's just hard for you to deal with. I don't see that at all. Actually, this last few days of this square don't seem to be as challenging as it has been, especially because I think our perception has changed because we're at the end of it. And outside of that, Uranus is actually working together with other planets to make things a little bit easier for you. So, in terms of the Mercury retrograde, expect delays. They're going to happen. Expect miscommunications. They're going to happen. Make sure that you communicate what you want as direct as possible so that it leaves no holes open for miscommunication. And even if you do that, there may still be miscommunication, but it won't be on your part. And that's really what that comes down to. So that is what I have for you. And I'm moving on to Jeannette, who is new in this video. And I haven't had a Gemini in this video for a minute, so that's nice. So welcome to the group here. We continue to have Mars in Gemini, and it's retrograde. Now that retrograde is ending towards the end of next week, so we're looking at a good couple of weeks of it, and then things sort of move on. For you, there's a few things that come out of that actually, for you, for me, for you, if that makes sense. With focus on the past, you've had one heck of a thing going on the last half of 2022 with your neck surgery, with your recovery. It's been a very slow process. And on top of that, you've moved and you've got dogs. Everything has changed for you basically in the last 6 months of last year. So really this week is focusing on shaking off the difficulties and really taking a look at how far you've come. I know you're probably not 100% there yet, but you're a lot better off than you were before, which is good. Mars in retrograde is actually kind of interesting, especially in Gemini. Geminis are high energy signs. I know you, so I know you're high energy. I feel like Mars in retrograde, which has been a thing for quite a few months now, actually, maybe not the entire time since your neck surgery, but a pretty good chunk of it. And I feel like obviously that has slowed you down quite considerably. And when you have Mars in retrograde, Mars is like an energy force that just drives you forward. And I feel like that has sort of zapped some of your energy too. It's not necessarily just what you went through. That influence is there as well. When we move into Tuesday and the moon moves into your sign and moves into conjunction with Mars, this may be emotionally frustrating, if that makes sense. Like you're trying to get things done and you keep pushing through and it's just not happening. Before you become an emotional mess, it's just a good idea to give yourself a break. Sit down, enjoy a cup of coffee, do some relaxing meditation so that you can refocus and get back to what you need to do. It's not just your body that's holding you back, by the way. You have to understand that your body is saying that physically you have to do things a little bit slower, but your workload in your mind has not changed at all. We've not lessened it. If anything, we've added more to it, and mentally that will slow you down also and cause frustrations and cause more delays, and then it's just it's just a hamster wheel again, right? I see you taking this time to get things ready to get started in terms of your crafting. We're trying to find the old logo to change it right now, and it doesn't exist. We have decided, we've come to the conclusion that it doesn't exist and it has to be remade. So we're working on it. But yeah, officially as of today, we don't have the old one. We have to remake it. So that's a thing. So getting that ready, getting your craft room ready, getting your house situated to where it's working for you the way it's supposed to. That's really what's on your agenda the most this week, I feel. It's just, getting everything set up for the coming year, kind of a thing. Lots of room, lots of time in that craft room, I have to say. But you have so much stuff. So I'm really not surprised about that. Mars and the moon on Tuesday are in a trine. Actually, Mars is in a trine with Pluto all week long. This trine with Pluto's focus is on career. Mars's focus is on the past and it's retrograde. Actually, it gives you some time to kind of take a look back at where you've been. In some cases, it's to revisit places that you don't want to go, which helps you to make plans for the direction you want to go in now, because that's what's going to keep you from going backwards, if that makes sense. So it's going to keep you out of Starbucks is what I'm saying here, which is also helpful. And I'm being told to tell you, look into an Etsy shop as well. Just look into what you need to do to open one, we'll put it that way. So maybe you can get the ball rolling on that as well. And that's what I have for you. And I'm going to move on to Connie. No planets influencing your sign this week, which is good. Focus still continues to be on those you love. We're going to say that focus really is on your new puppy and Scooby. Those are the ones that you love. We don't need to focus on anybody else. They don't deserve your time. The mob does not deserve your time at all, your focus. Focus is on happy things, those you love, which I'm going to interpret as the doggies. We did talk a little bit about your schedule next week. I did see 2 newer appointments or people that you have not met with before. One that may be somebody that you have met with before, you're going in for a second appointment. There might be another one that's being added to that as well, which could be a reschedule. The word reschedule is coming up. So I'm not 100% on if this is somebody that's rescheduled a million times or if this is somebody that was scheduled at the end of the week that bumped up. Okay, so it could still be a new one, if that makes sense. I also feel that next week there's more time in. I know that this week you've been getting rid of some things. I kind of see a little bit more of that going through and organizing things next week as well. It's like I'm seeing things move completely from room to room, if that makes sense. So it's like you've either found some things that were put away that you want to bring back out, or there's some things that have been out that you've decided you just want to kind of put them away, if that makes sense. So they're literally moving from one room to another in some way. I see a little bit of that. I kind of see these things as being things that are there, more so because they quote unquote should be there and not because you want them there, if that makes sense. So it's like it's the right thing to do to have them there. The only thing that I can interpret that as is pictures of the mob. Okay, pictures of the mob. You have them up on your walls because they are technically your family, and so of course you have the pictures of them up there, but it doesn't really bring you joy. So maybe moving the mob into a different room would be the better option. We'll put it that way. So I do see a little bit of that. There's a little bit of a struggle there in terms of the guilt. Don't have any guilt. Just move them into another room. They're still there, but they're not constantly in your vision, if that makes sense, because that's really where the problem stems from sometimes, when they get brought up a lot, and they're not bringing themselves up. They're staring you in the face, or some items that they owned are staring you in the face, if that makes sense. If it's not promoting joy, don't have it up, basically. Is what that sort of comes down to. The other thing that I'm picking up on this week is I do see we are in a Mercury retrograde, and I do see delays. I do see miscommunications. I do see double conversations. Like you're meeting with somebody that you talked about this specific thing to already, and now you're having to have the conversation again a second time. That's probably not anything that you're unfamiliar with, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying that. I don't think that's something that you're unfamiliar with, so definitely not something that is going to be a surprise. But I also want to say that these conversations can be coming from a place that's really annoying with somebody, where you tend to have these double conversations with a lot, if that makes sense. And so part of that could be coming from the office. You've had a conversation with, I can't remember the guy's name now, but the guy you're always talking to at the office. You had a conversation, you thought it was all taken care of. All of a sudden he calls up, and you start having the conversation as if you never had it, kind of a thing. It's annoying, but it's better that he called and you have the conversation again than nothing getting done with it. So that's kind of where I put that. It's just having a little bit more patience over it being frustrating, because you're talking about the same thing again, rather than having a resolution right now. So that's what I have for you, Connie. And I am going to move on to Jenny. We have no planets in Leo this week. Next week, that's going to change when the moon comes in. So just be prepared for that and enjoy this week while you have it. It's the very first week of the year. I'm sure you're ready to go, jump into it, and all the craziness that goes along with that. Yay, it's tax season again. Yay, so excited for you. Not. Again, you chose that field, not me. So it is what it is, right? Focus is on family this week, though, not necessarily on career. And I feel like part of that is your time is limited. and your job is going to take up a lot of time. So I feel like a little bit of extra time with those that you love, or a little bit extra time doing something that you enjoy doing, wouldn't be amiss this week. Just because you know that you're not going to have a lot of time for that coming up here, as we get closer to the end of the month. So I do see that. I also see, I don't it's like a mini trip. And when I say a mini trip, I mean we're talking something for a day. So going to the lake for a day, is taking the girls out to do something fun. May not be outdoors, but something that, really all of you enjoy doing together, if that makes sense. And I feel like, that's something that maybe you might be thinking about, but you had all the time with them during Christmas and blah, 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 and everybody's getting back to their normal activities. Just do it. Don't overthink it. Just do it. You're going to love it. They're going to love it. It's, whenever you can get extra time, you should take it. Honestly, kids grow up so dang fast. We blink and they're adults and living their own lives and not paying any attention to what we tell them anymore. Unless they really need to listen. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So yeah, I do see a little bit of that. But of course I also see boom, just hit the ground running with the work on those normal difficult clients being difficult right off the bat. Okay, the holidays are over. I have a list of problems for Jenny to figure out. So I also see a little bit of that in there as well. So maybe that little mini trip or day trip or day of fun or what have you sort of counterbalances all that other stuff that, you just got to deal with on a regular basis, because it's your job to deal with it, unfortunately. So that's what I have for you, Jenny. And I'm going to move on to Linda, I do believe. I'm going to check here. Yes, no, that's the wrong one. Yes, Linda. Hi, Linda. No planets in Virgo this week. Focus continues to be on your daily schedule, your day planner, and filling up that day planner. And of course we have a Mercury retrograde this week, so I do see a lot of things moving around. Not abnormal for you at all, but there's a couple of things moving around that are extremely inconvenient, we'll just put it that way. It's hard to, for example, it is hard to fit doctor appointments into your schedule. You get what time they have available, not you go in when you have time available. So I kind of feel like there might be, and not to say that there's anything going on necessarily, it's just that there might be appointments that they get in touch with you about this week that are at very inconvenient times, but they're in the future. So it's not like you're rescheduling this week, you're having to reschedule stuff that's a month or two away, or a week or two away, if that makes sense. So just more frustrating than anything. I don't see anything, any major hiccups to your schedule coming up. But outside of the normal annoying things, people rescheduling on your time, and there's a bit of that feeling that I go through and have gone through quite a bit, actually, where it really depends on the mood I'm in at the time, of course, but it can be offensive when people are constantly rescheduling, or even if they're not constantly rescheduling, it's just like, it really feels like they're not valuing your time. And that feeling, I'm gonna move something for the cat here. That feeling that they're not valuing your time just it's so frustrating and annoying. Everybody has their stuff that they go through, that they're going through, and unfortunately that means that they have to reschedule you. And then some people just don't have any consideration for anybody else. It's just the truth of it, and that's always difficult. It's always difficult to work with people like that. I do see you having a chit chat with somebody about that. And dealing with at least one of those people, because you can. In some cases it's out of your control, but in this case I do feel that you have some control over it, at least enough to be able to have a conversation with that person and bring to their attention that you have a lot going on and you can't keep rescheduling them. So that's all I have for you, my dear. Pretty calm and quiet week, considering. I mean, I know you don't really have a lot of calm and quiet weeks, but this one is calmer and quieter than normal. I'll put it that way, which is nice because it gives you plenty of time to focus on your goals and what you want to get accomplished. So that is the good thing. Moving on to Matalyn, I see focus is on your daily schedule. No planets in Virgo this week, so nothing to influence that really. Not sure if I'm seeing you going back to school this week or next week. You may be going back to school next week and preparing to get back into that schedule this week. But I do see your schedule becoming a little bit busier, if that makes sense. So that could be going back to school, that could be adding classes or adding other activities, or just the fact that you're 18 and you're never home because you're 18 and you're never home. Who wants to be home when they're 18, right? I didn't. I can guarantee your parents didn't. And if they say otherwise, they're probably fibbing, but I don't think they would anyways. So I'm not saying that there's, it's all work that's taking up your time. I see a lot of different things that are taking up your time, if that makes sense. But I also see a day in there where you just don't want it. It's just like you get up, your energy is low, you're not really sure why. People want you to do this and that and the other thing, and you just don't want to. I'm not gonna sit here and harp about how you gotta listen to your parents, okay? I mean, obviously you should. If they need help, you should help them. If you need help, they help you. I mean, it's just, it's your family, and you're very blessed to have a family that is a little bit crazy if you broaden out, but I mean, for the most part, you got parents that just adore you. You've got lots of extra aunts and uncles that just adore you. You've got grandparents that just adore you. You're very, very lucky to have had the childhood that you do. That being said, um, if it's not necessary, you don't have to do it. So yes, help out your mom if she needs help doing something, but if she's asking you to do something that you are not comfortable with, then don't. And I'm just using your mom as an example. I'm not saying that your mom is going to do it, right? If it is your mom, you can say, Auntie Melissa said no. See, she can yell at me and I will deal with it. I probably won't want to, but I'll deal with it. But not just your parents, boyfriend, friends, they want you to go do stuff. If you're not feeling it, don't. That's a mistake that I made over and over and over again in my youth. And it got to the point where there were days where I couldn't even get out of bed. I was so tired because I was just using up energy that I didn't even have. And I had a lot more back then. So if your body is saying you need a recharge day, take the recharge day. Even if that means rescheduling time or other things that you need to do, rescheduling that, if that's possible, of course. Obviously, if this day falls on a day where you've got to take classes, just make sure you take care of your responsibilities. That's all anybody asks. I think that sick days or mental health days are really important, I should say. Mental health days are really important, or just energy management days. I'm too tired to be doing this right now. I actually just did that yesterday. I should have got a lot of stuff done yesterday, and my body just said no. You have nothing. And when my body says no, my brain just can't focus on anything either. So that's my body saying, you need to recharge. You didn't do it over the weekend. You got to do it. You're doing it now. Which I did. Unfortunately, that means I got a million things to do. And, I could have gotten some of them done yesterday and I didn't. It's always a catch-22. The point is that, of course, you have to take care of your responsibilities. And if I took a day off, then my responsibilities are being taken care of all today, because it's when I have time for it, instead of split between 2 days. So yeah, everybody needs to take time off, but you have to reschedule everything else in order to do it. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Take care of you. That's really the ultimate goal. And when you're getting your schedule together, make sure that you schedule time in there for self-care as well. That's also really important. That's what I have for you, my dear. Okay, moving on to my Libra, Theresa. Focuses on relationships this week, although Ceres, which is a smaller dwarf planet, is influencing your day-to-day schedule as well. So we're bringing both of those focuses in there. There's really no planetary influences this week. The moon will be in there to influence things enough next week, at the end of next week. So we'll enjoy not having that this week. Ceres is not one of the major planets. So there's not a whole lot of aspecting other bodies in the sky, we'll put it that way. It's not to say that it doesn't, that they don't. But it has obviously, if there is a major planet in there, it has more influence than the smaller dwarf planets. Because we only have the dwarf planets influence, then that's what we focus our energy on. Ceres is known as the Great Mother, so there's a very nurturing and maternal influence to her. And with your focus on relationships and Ceres' maternal and nurturing focus on your day-to-day schedule, what this tells me is a lot of time in your schedule being devoted to the people that you love. So your family, your current relationship, some really close friends that you don't mind giving your time to, different things like that. And I don't necessarily feel that this is happening just because they're having a problem and you need to help them solve it. I feel like this is what you're needing. This is what's missing. This is what you want to spend this time. This is you reaching out to them, not necessarily the other way around. It's like, I just want some Alyssa time, I just want to spend some time with my daughter, I'm missing that connection with my daughter and reaching out to try and make up some of that time, if that makes sense. I'm also looking at it in terms of with your daily schedule. I think a lot of times we look at our schedules as, our responsibilities, what we have to get done, our work schedule, or making money, taking care of all of those things that we need to take care of. Excuse me. Like naps. 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm almost done. But I feel like Ceres influencing your daily schedule also has a lot to do with making sure that you do have nurturing time in your schedule, nurturing time for you, as in your relationship for yourself, as well as your relationship with others, is also really important. But to incorporate things into your schedule that do nurture you or bring you joy. So maybe incorporating into your schedule going out to dinner to a different place once a week or once a month, different things like that. It just sort of shakes things up and it changes things, and it, it takes it out of the same thing over and over and over again, if that makes sense. And it is nurturing to your soul because you're giving yourself something new, something exciting, something else to focus on besides the daily grind. It changes your energetic focus on everything. So I feel like that also has or plays into that in some way. Outside of that, things are pretty calm and quiet. We're moving into in between focuses next week. So that sort of just kind of throws it up in the air and lets you choose what it is that you want to focus on at the time or in the moment, which is nice also. Although series will still have an influence there, and that nurturing influence will continue. I think it's brilliant that you're starting off the year in this sort of nurturing mindset, because we when we think of nurturing, we usually think of children, and we don't just nurture children, we nurture ourselves, we nurture our lives, we nurture our careers, we nurture our relationships, everything, every aspect of our lives can use a little bit of nurturing in some way, shape, or form. And without that, not much changes. And not to say that you are bored with the way things are, but the more you change things up, the more exciting it is. And I feel that that's something that's really important right now, if that makes sense. So that's what I have for you. Because another one, this is my first 2 yawns all day, all day. So I'm just gonna say self-care is nurturing, to make sure that that's a part of your schedule, for sure. I know you like to go out and have fun, but you gotta rest too. So that's what I have for you. I'm going to move on to Regina. Hi, Regina. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and a new year. And I'm happy to say horrible retail season is over. Yay! Actually, that's probably not true, because most retail has like all these beginning of the year sales and the inventory is coming up. So it's probably just as annoying, but maybe not quite as many people as you had to deal with before, which is kind of nice, I would think. Focus is on finances this week. No planetary influences in Scorpio this week at all. With focus on finances, we're going to move into focus on relationships as well pretty soon here. I want to say for you, one of the things that I'm picking up on for you is, I want to say, I feel like it's important to come up with a financial plan right now, if that makes sense. If you haven't done that yet, maybe it would be good to get started on that. But I'm actually seeing you coming up with some pretty out of the box ideas in terms of how to handle your finances. I'm also seeing, though, that you are having a hard time implementing those things because you really are afraid that there's somebody else involved and that they're not going to play along in the same way that you are doing to be able to keep those goals going. And I don't feel that this is actually happening. I feel like it's the fear that that's going to happen that's stopping you from implementing these plans, if that makes sense. First of all, I see multiple different ideas. Start with one, slowly incorporate it, get it integrated in there. And then once that seems to be working smoothly, then you add the next one and integrate that, and give this other person the adjustment time rather than throwing it all on them at once. This is what we're going to do. It has a tendency to overwhelm people, and then they get scared, then they don't want to make changes, and then you're fighting with them, and then it just, the whole thing just rolls downhill. That's usually how that happens. So maybe not drastic changes, start off small, implement some changes, get used to them, both of you get used to them, and then bring in more, if that makes sense. I do see a change in your finances also, whether this is a change that is upcoming or a change that has just happened. And it's not a bad change either. It's a change for the better, if that makes sense. So maybe a little bit more money to work with, which will help you be able to implement your ideas in there. And I'm being told to tell you, okay, I need a swig of coffee. Hold on. I'm being told to tell you, if the extra money is coming from, say, a spouse, and the spouse is making extra money, and the spouse likes to spend the money, right? The hardest thing is the fact that the spouse is going to want it. Well, I have extra money, so I can spend extra money. And so there is going to have to be a conversation about, let's put some over here before we spend it, kind of a thing, or negotiate an amount that can be spent every week or every 2 weeks, and not to go over that amount, so that you can save some. Kind of try, and I use the word negotiate because we have to negotiate in every aspect of our life, including our relationships, unfortunately. So that negotiation is really important. The more you negotiate that in a way to where you get what you want and they get what they want, it does make it easier, rather than just approaching it with, no, I have these plans and this is what I want to do. Even if it's the best thing for both of you, it's still not going to go over well if it's just, we're going to do it my way and you don't get anything, kind of a thing. Not saying that I think you're going to do that. It's just, in my experience in that situation, it's easier to give them something and to implement this, and then that way everybody is sort of happy, and it doesn't feel like I'm just controlling all the money for him, because it can feel like that sometimes. I'm not controlling all the money. I'm just trying to pay the dang bills, for crying out loud, and get us ahead. That's all. But the logic goes right out the window when somebody feels like they're having something taken from them. So go around that. Don't approach it in that way. Again, if you have, go around it and come in through the back door and say, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation about how we can improve ourselves, but still enjoy life a little bit. And that might be an easier conversation for you. So that's what I have for you, Regina. Moving on to Theresa Sheppard. I hope you enjoyed your little break, because I see that it is over this week and there is no little break anymore. You are back to hitting the grind. Maybe a couple of days off at the beginning, but then by Wednesday you're moving. At least that's what I'm being shown anyways. Mercury is retrograde this week. The retrograde started last week. The first week of the retrograde is over on Thursday. We still have 2 more Thursdays until it's over, and then of course a third for a shadow period. So of course expect delays and blah 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 and all that stuff. There are no planets in Scorpio to focus anything or to influence anything, which is not a bad thing. Focus continues to be on finances. What that means for you is, I kind of feel like you've already come up with your financial goals for the year. You have a plan. This week, it's really just making sure that you stick to the plan. You don't deviate as much as possible. I don't see you deviating on it this week. Usually the first week is the easiest one. The word offer is coming up for you as well. It may not be an employment offer, but it is an offer of some sort. Not sure what it is, but I feel that when this offer is given to you, you're going to want to snatch it up. You may have some reservations, you may kind of go back and forth on your thinking, but I really feel that in the long run, this is an offer you can't pass up, if that makes sense. And it may even be an offer for help in some way, whether it's help at home or help with your husband or your mother or something like that. Whatever this offer is, it's helping to eliminate something off of your plate, so it's not something that you have to worry about anymore, and it's going to help make everything sort of run a little bit more smoothly for you, because it's just one less thing that you don't have to worry about quite so much. So I'm not sure if that's something to do with the home or bringing. I kind of see somebody coming in also, whether that's a home nurse or somebody that, like a housekeeper, somebody that's coming in to do a specific job as well, which is helpful to you. Obviously it's things that you don't have to take care of when you're home. You can spend some time, I don't know, enjoying your time off. That would be nice, right? So nothing major, nothing drastic. I don't even really see a lot of flight delays or anything like that. There might be some little stuff here and there, but nothing too terribly major or anything that sucks your energy dry, if that makes sense. I do see that as difficult as it is to do all that traveling, it is nice to get out of the house and get back into the air and get back into your routine again. A lot of people have a hard time with that. I almost see you jumping into it, if that makes sense. And I don't blame you for that. So in any case, that is what I have for you, Theresa. And I'm going to pause for just a minute because I hear something, and I'll be right back. All right, let's get to our Sagittarians here, and we're going to start with Amanda. First of all, no planets influencing Sagittarius this week. That is good. Focus continues to be on long-term goals. As usual, I just feel like you have so many different directions to focus on, if that makes sense. I think that's your Sagittarius showing. I think that's just your Amanda showing, if that makes sense. I mean, I kind of feel like in one way you've done such a great job in learning how to focus on one thing at a time, right? Which is not the typical Sagittarian thing. But I also feel like the way that your energy moves, you're more successful when you're under the wire, so to speak, or when there's a little bit of stress on you, if that makes sense. And if you don't have that stress in your environment, you create it in some cases by focusing on multiple things at once, and which is fine because you can function like that. What I will say though is I feel like you just want to be aware of your body and how you're feeling in the moment. And I'm getting a headache as we're talking about this, like a migraine here. And I feel like that may be one of your telltale signs that you're overdoing it. So just be mindful of your body. Your body will tell you when you're overdoing it and when you're focused on too many things at once. Your brain is going to help you remember that too, because things start to get garbled. And of course, there's a Mercury retrograde. So if you're trying to, let me just knock this out and this and this and this and this and this and this and done. Well, obviously there's a Mercury retrograde going on. That's not going to happen, woman. It never does during a Mercury retrograde. You have to give things time and make sure that you have patience. So Ideally, getting all 10 of those things done in an afternoon seems like it's totally doable, but it probably isn't. So give yourself a little bit more time than just that one afternoon, and don't overbook yourself. And I'm saying don't overbook yourself for a reason, because it may happen. Okay. So make sure that whatever you need to do is in your schedule this week, and that so that you don't book somebody during something else, basically, and then cause an issue where you have to reschedule somebody, and it's just, I mean, it's no big deal, but it is annoying, and nobody wants to do that. I also want to say, there may be some rescheduling anyways, and not just coming from you. Actually, to be honest with you, I'm gonna reschedule on you. You'll know about that before you see this video, but I am gonna reschedule on you next week, as a matter of fact. Which I forgot to talk to you about this week because my grandma has to go to a doctor. So I'm gonna have to reschedule you and be that annoying person too. But I don't think that it's just me. I see somebody else rescheduling on you as well. This person may be rescheduling on you a lot, so it may be a good time to, once you can actually talk to them, to talk to them about commitment and whether or not this is something that they can commit to, because I feel like this is a client that reschedules a lot, and a few times that's not a big deal. After a while it becomes a problem, and you want to nip it in the bud before it becomes a pattern for them that you have to deal with. We don't want to do that. Outside of that, I don't really see a whole lot of stuff going on. Nothing really major necessarily coming up, except well, I do see you spending time at one of the schools for one of the girls. Not necessarily because they're doing anything wrong. Um, I feel like this is more one of those instances where you have to go down there and fight on their behalf, if that makes sense. I don't see it as a major fight, more like you just need to go down there and make sure that they're aware of who they're dealing with. So that things can run a little bit more smoothly for the rest of the year. We'll just put it that way. That's the nicest way I can put it, anyways. But you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, that's what I have for you, Amanda. Good luck, good luck with that. I'd be down there at that school with you if I was there. Trust me on that. There's nothing that I love more than putting schools in their place, because they need it sometimes. Moving on to Sheri. Hi, Sheri. Focus is on long-term goals this week. No planets in Sagittarius this week, which is nice. There'll be no planets in Sagittarius next week either. It's a nice little breaky break, which is good. Things have been crazy enough. I kind of look at this year, or this week, I should say, the first week of the year, as you and Matt, really your family, are settling into the new way of things. I know Matt's spending more and more and more time with his parents and getting himself set up to where that's his main focus, which is good. It's what needs to be done. But I think that it's important also that you guys establish, because both of you are so focused on other people and not each other, it is important for you guys to come up with a plan of once a week or once every other week, where you have a few hours, not just some time where he comes over for an hour, you guys do your thing, and then he leaves. I mean, that's fun. But a once a week, you've got somebody to watch your dad, he's got somebody to watch the parents. Let's get together and spend some Matt and Sheri time. It's not a ridiculous thing to ask for people to do that. We're talking a couple of hours here, not a whole day. just for the two of you to be able to actually sit down and relax with each other for a minute, being in each other's space, come up with plans of what you got to get done, and then sort of move on, if that makes sense. Not saying that it's absolutely necessary to do this, but I think it might be good for both of you. It's kind of like dating again, really. You're both stuck with your parents. You can't see each other, and you're too old to climb out the window and sneak out. So this is the better option, I think, is to see if that's something that you guys can incorporate into your schedules, just so that you can, not to say that you're going to lose your connection with each other. I don't see that, but I think it's good for both of you to have something else to focus on. And since you don't get a lot of time together, focusing on each other is it's good. It keeps things healthy. So that's one thing that's coming up. The other thing is, for me, I keep getting long-term financial goals for you, and I feel like that's definitely something that you and Matt need to sit down and deal with. But I see that you've got a lot of ideas going on in that overactive brain of yours too, that might not be bad to implement. First thing I'm being told to tell you is to write those ideas down. You're never going to go anywhere if they're in your head. You know that already. Write them down so that you can look at them and really feel which one is going to be the best one for you. Oh, obviously, you're making this decision with Matt also, so you write them down to see which one seems to be the best fit for him as well. In all honesty, I think the reason why this keeps coming up over and over and over again in my mind for you is because my vision of you and money is always counting it. How much do we have left? How much do we have left? How much do we have left to allocate to the rest of the trip, right? And while that's not a bad thing, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing at all, I also feel like even though you're in the situation that you're in, I feel this, I want to change this financial situation that we're in, if that makes sense, to help make things run smoother. And so you're coming up with ideas of how to do that. And of course, you don't have all the facts yet. So it's hard to actually say this is what I'm going to do. But I really feel that because the two of you are in two different places, because the finances are changing, you both really have to communicate with each other in order to come up with this plan that works the best for both of you. Because there's going to be a lot of situations that come up where you're going to need a little bit of extra money for something, or he's going to need a little extra money for something. And if you're not communicating with each other, one of you is going to go to get that money and it's not going to be there. And so I feel like it's even more important to communicate about this, because he's not there to communicate about it every day. So you're kind of getting together once a week to have a meeting also, but and take care of the responsible stuff, and then some relaxed time, movie time, however you use that time. But make it a recharge time. So you're not necessarily taking a couple of hours a week to go run a bunch of errands either. That's not what this time is for. Just putting that out there. So that's what I have for you, Sheri. Moving on to Peg. Focus is on long-term goals this week for Sagittarius. No planets influencing that at all, which means your only influence is you and what you put into it. I feel like you have already put some goals together. This is the week where you start to implement that, and start to put things into place. Mercury is retrograde this week, so you definitely want to be open to delays and miscommunications and all that other stuff that happens with Mercury retrogrades. But I also feel like for you personally, this Mercury retrograde is in Capricorn. Capricorns really are the signs that just get things done. And I feel like there may be some delays in something that you're trying to launch, or delays with somebody that you're trying to work with, or something that may have you second guessing you're making this decision or going this route. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be second guessing it. It's just going to take a little bit more time to get things started than originally planned, is where I'm going to go with that. I don't feel that this is something that's not going to happen. There's just some delays there. Mercury is retrograde. There's always delays. So you always have to have a little bit more patience with that. I feel like this is around an individual as well. And I think the big problem with this particular individual is not so much. I just feel like there's triggers that remind you of another person. And for me personally, when there's triggers that remind me of another person, we have a couple of people, shared people in our past. I tend to want to run in the other direction, because I don't want to deal with that hot mess again. But at the same time, I also have learned that you want to, before you panic and put the two together, make sure that you're not just panicking, that, there are isolated, sometimes people have these isolated incidents where they're just not on their A game that day. Or they're just having a really rough time and they're scattered, or they're being victims of the Mercury retrograde just like you are. So I would say don't panic just because you're seeing these initial quote unquote red flags. See if there's a little bit, a few more that come up. If this behavior is consistent, then absolutely walk away from it, but give it a chance, is what I'm being told to tell you. Have a little bit of patience, not that you don't, but you may need a little extra, as we all do during Mercury retrograde. The other thing that I'm really picking up for you this week is I see an idea that's on the fence. You're on the fence with it, if that makes sense. Something that you want to do, but you haven't exactly put it down on in terms of your long-term goals. Isn't it cemented in this is what I'm going to do? It's sort of on the back burner, but it keeps coming up, and it keeps coming up. If it keeps coming up, that's your guide's confirmation that maybe you need to focus more of your time on that. And I'm also going to say that if you're ignoring that to do other things that may be a little easier, they don't create as much work, they're a little safer, and those things don't work out, probably because you should be focusing on this other idea that you keep putting on the back burner. So that's all I'm going to say about that. That's what I have for you, Peg. And finally, moving on to Mama Sheri. Mama Sheri with the brand new kitty focuses on long-term goals this week. No planets influencing Sagittarius, which is very good. I have been seeing you focusing more on building up your clientele again, focusing more on doing readings and classes again, which is really good. Yes, you got a really cute distraction there at home, which makes it difficult. It's always hard to walk away from a cute baby and actually do work. It really is. You just want to play with the kitty, and I totally get that. I'm obviously not saying, overbook yourself to the point where you have no time with the kitty. That's not good, but you do need a good balance. I do see this as a pretty busy week for you, actually, in terms of that sort of thing, but also being outside as well. So I'm not sure if that means shopping or appointments or various different things like that. I am gonna say that I'm just going to put it this way. I am going to say that I'm not sure if this is coming up this week or next week, but I feel like somebody around you may not like your busier schedule, because either it takes away from their time or whatever their own motives are. We'll just put it that way. It is their own motives. It's not for your benefit. And I'm not necessarily saying that it's a bad thing. I mean, this could be Kim, who can't call you 10 times a day, not like she does. Okay, this is just an example. It's something along the lines of I just can't call you whenever I want to, and that's a problem for me. Not as in they're calling you out on the carpet. It's just that they're having a hard time right now, and you not being available is a little bit difficult for them. Doesn't mean that they won't understand, that things have changed and that they have to change, if that makes sense. But there's also the possibility that this could be somebody closer, that again, it's their own motives. It's not, has nothing to do with you, and don't let them make it about you and what you're doing. Recognize it for what it is, that it is their motives that they're referring to, and not their concern for you. With that being said, that is what I have for you, Mama Sheri, and that's what I have for everybody. Thank you for coming and hanging out for the first readings of 2023. I'm very happy to be in 2023 now, because for the last 4 months I've been doing charts for 2022, 2023. It got really confusing. Now I can just focus on 2023. No more 2022. No more confusion until September, October next year, when the confusion comes back. Anyways, I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. Thank you for watching, and have a great week, everybody.